name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today we're going to try to fix my very own Omega Quartz watch from the 1980s. This is a Seamaster, and the movement inside is a 1342. So it's quite a high-end quartz because it's an early quartz when quartz were quite expensive compared to some quartz watches that came around years later. So as you can see, lovely condition, but unfortunately the second hand's not moving. Also, when I pull out the crown, this should move the hour hand, but look at that, it's a bit hesitant. Sometimes you've got to pull it in and out a couple of times to actually get the hour hand to kick in. Now you can see it's working fine, but I tried swapping the battery over and nothing's happening. That second hand is not moving whatsoever, so I'm hoping it might just need a service. So what I'm going to do is just pop the battery out just to show you that the battery is actually okay, and then what I'm going to do is see if there's a problem with either the quartz movement or whether it's a mechanical problem, for example with the gears. So if I was to take out some of the gears, then we could see if the stepper motor's turning. If it is, we know the quartz side of it is okay. If it's not, we know the quartz side is not okay, and then we know whether we're fault finding the electronic side or the mechanical side. Anyway, if you have a look here, this is the little battery. I've also had to put a little spacer in because the battery that this took originally I don't think you can get anymore. But anyway, look at that, 1.57 volts, so 100% the battery is fine. So I'm popping the battery back in now, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take off that big gold bridge in the middle there, and then we'll see once we take out some of the gears whether the stepper motor turns. Annoyingly, if you look at my tweezers, they've got magnetised. I'm having to demagnetise them. Boom! Now, watch this. Excellent, the screws are no longer sticking to it, which is good. So now let's remove that bridge and see what's happening. Got some nice new tweezers as well from a recommendation from Mike from My Retro Watches, and they're amazing. They were 20-something pound and not cheap, but it makes such a difference. They actually work. So now you can see the stepper motor there, not the thing I'm picking up now, but see that little thing that I'm just going to tap now. There we go. You can see now that it is in fact moving. It's hard to see because it's so small. But we know now it's not a problem with the timing off the quartz or anything like that. So the whole electric circuit is okay. The problem is going to be from there onwards. So it must be just maybe gummed up oil from probably years of not having a service. Remember, this is from 1980. And even if it has been serviced in the past, maybe it hasn't been serviced in the last 20 years. So now what I'm going to have to do is just do a massive strip down, which is going to take ages. So kick back, relax, and listen to the music. Now on this bit here, when you take out the crown, you have to make sure it's fully pushed in. This is quite important on this one. If you were to pull it out and then press it in, then you can't get it back in. So this is the actual circuit board, and if you have a look, those two little springs there, that's what contacts the stepper motor. So they're the contacts for that stepper motor. That stepper motor is really important because that is the thing that's powering this watch. Unusual as well because the watch looks like it's square, but yet the actual dial itself is round. It's just the case which is square. Now I'm just putting the crown back in to try to line up the hands a little bit because I need to take them off. So it's easier for me if they're all in a straight line. Just putting a bag on top just to give the dial a bit of protection. But I do need to get myself some new hand removers because these are a little bit too thick, so I find them really awkward to use. So that is the dial off, and underneath the dial I have spotted some little markings. So TT2293 looks like an NCB. So now I'm thinking, I wonder if it has been serviced. So I'm having a look at the little back plate here, and there's definitely some kind of marking there, GM1204. So maybe in the last 40 years this has had some service. Now here you can see I'm struggling with the tweezers, so what I'm going to use is I'm going to use Rodico. This stuff is miracle stuff. It just looks like green blue tack, but it is amazing because it really helps you hold on to bits and also remove things as well. As well as that, it's useful to clean the dial, so you can just break a little bit off, dab it on the dial, and it picks up loads of the dust and stuff that's been there after years. But look at this, look how easy that is to take off. Right, so there's not really much happening now apart from stripping it down completely. As you can imagine, this is quite a long process. So I'll keep quiet for a bit. Again, you can see Rodico to the rescue. It's such good stuff. It's so cheap as well. Look how annoying that is, because it's so magnetic it just drags everything else with it. I believe that's some sort of fancy clutch that Omega used to use back in the day. Again, you can see using Rodico just to stop that spring flying across the room. And this here is the stepper motor. These are really expensive and near enough impossible to find, unfortunately. So many of these watches are just left not working because of these stepper motors there. Now look here, nice little bit of corrosion that I found. So I don't know whether that would have affected anything. I don't think so, because it's not really on the moving parts, but it's not going to be very good for it. So this is some IPA, isopropyl alcohol, and now I'm just going to clean everything. I could put it in the ultrasonic cleaner. It's just that once I had a bad experience where a jewel came out. So I'm just going to give it a clean by this way. At least I know it's not very dirty, and at least I know I'm not going to do it any harm. It's not going to get cleaned as well as if it was in the ultrasonic cleaner, but still. Now what's interesting is this little part here did have quite a bend on it. I'm not sure if that would affect anything, like for example, that's just to kind of click into place when you pull out the crown. So I don't think it would affect the hour hand, but it might have had some kind of impact on it. So it's nice and straight again now. So this takes a long time, having to clean every single part. And now you see, just using a new bit of Rodico on the dial just to try to pick up any bits of dirt that's settled on there over the years. And these are all the parts that I now need to try and get back together. So everything's been cleaned and there's just so much there to put back together. Taking apart's easy, it's putting it back that's hard. So now I'm going to be using this Mobius 8000 oil. It's not going to be the right oil for it. I don't know what would be the right oil for it. And I'm just kind of guessing where I think the oil should be. I'm only putting tiny little bits everywhere, so hopefully I won't over oil it. And hopefully now that it's all clean, when it goes back together, it might behave differently than it did before. I'm hoping there'll be less friction, so that little stepper motor will be able to make all the gears work. So this takes a long time. I'm just oiling as I go, and if I put too much oil on anywhere, then I'll just use a bit of Rodico just to wipe it off again. Got to do this bit really carefully because it's magnetic. One false move and it just picks up the other two gears again. Now these plastic blue gears are for the calendar wheel. Apparently they're a bit of a weak spot on this movement as well. And see, the idea is that that's supposed to grip in with one of the blue ones, and then when it turns again it starts to move. The blue one has a notch sticking out of it, so every full rotation of the blue one it knocks the other one round, which then knocks the calendar wheel round. Such a nice feeling when all the holes line up where they should do, and then all the pivots just fall into place. Now I'm going to put the crown in to see if it's all working. And right about now is where my heart sank, because look, it's not clicking in. So I had to take it all apart again, not all, but that bit apart, and I had to move that bit round. It's really important to have that down in that position there. Now, when it all goes back together, it will then allow the crown to go in properly. Ah, satisfying, and now you see it can click in and out. Such a nice feeling when that happens. So now I'm just checking to make sure that the calendar is working. And something's not right. It just doesn't feel right. There's too much friction there. So although the calendar is turning, it's just not something's not right. So I look closely at it and I realise that the blue thing just needs to be moved back only a couple of millimetres, so I can actually do this using the tweezers without taking it all apart. And then the metal gear in the middle will slot nicely into the blue thing there. And now, perfect. It just goes round nice and smooth. And look, every 24 clicks off the hour hand, the calendar moves round, the date moves round. That part there is actually magnetic. This is one of those things, again, when you put on you hope it all falls into place. And it's so satisfying when the little pivot goes into holes. Now look at that. It's going round nice and smooth. So now I need to put the dial back on. This one is just kind of a push fit. Looks like it's just held on with pressure. And now I've got to keep turning the date round until it just changes, and that's where I need the 12 o'clock to be, because obviously you want the hands to go over at midnight. I'm just using little pushers to push them on. And now you can see it's quite a clever watch. It jumps per hour, and the minute hand and second hand is done independently of the hour. So if you were to go travelling, you can just move the hour forward or back by 1, 2, however many hours you need, because most, I don't think all, but most countries are just 1 hour ahead or 2 hours or 3 hours ahead behind, etc. So it's an easy way. It's an easy way to change it when you go abroad. Just checking to make sure now there's a gap between the minute hand and the hour hand. And also you can see it's changing over at the 12 o'clock. I'm just trying to place the second hand on now, which is just really small, very fiddly. Now it's time to pop it back in the case. And it goes from being round to a more square shape. Now if you're wondering why this video sounds a bit different, it's because I am doing a voiceover. I filmed this at about 2 in the morning, so I had to do it in silence. Because otherwise I'd wake everybody up. You can see I've invested in a little bit of pegwood. I think that cost me a whole £3 for a pack of 20. It'll probably last my lifetime. Battery back in with the homemade spacer around it. Now we're building up to the moment of truth. I'm going to give it a little nudge. Let's see if it gets going. Go on! Look at that. The most satisfying thing ever. Not quite as good as a mechanical watch, but still not bad. So that's nice. You can see it's just ticking around every second. And now look at this weird thing. You have to hold it in for about 5 seconds, then release it, and then put it straight back in again to move the second and the minute hand round. Look at that. Now, it's very long-winded. It can take ages to go around, for example, 59 minutes. But once it's done, really you don't have to do it again, because you can just change the hour hand when it comes to daylight saving. And when you just tap it like that, it advances the second hand by a second. So it's a pretty clever system. And this is moving the hour hand round. Watch the date move on. And 18. So you can see it seems to be doing what it needs to do. So I'm just going to give it, I'm not giving it a polish, I'm just giving it a little clean. This is one of those little metal polishing cloths, but I'm only doing it very lightly. As you can tell, the watch will still be full of scratches, but it might just look a bit cleaner. Now I'm using Polywatch for the crystal. This is actually plastic. I reckon originally it probably would have been mineral, you know, like glass, but this is plastic, hence the reason I'm using Polywatch on it. But Polywatch is amazing for getting scratches out of plastic, and even though this is already clean, it just seems to make it fresher when you look at it. So there we go, all finished. Personally, I love the look of this watch, especially with that soft leather blue strap. Let's take it outside. As you can see, it looks stunning considering it's 40 years old, and although it's a quartz, you can see the inside of it has been made nicely. So I set it against this one before going to bed last night, and if you have a look, you can see that it's still keeping within the same seconds. So hopefully over the week it will only be a couple of seconds out, which is fantastic. So the only thing I would do differently next time is I would take a little bit more care lining up the minute hand, because the second hand needs to be about 10 to 15 seconds past the 12 before the minute hand lines up perfectly. But overall it's still fine, and I can always look at that again in the future, because this minute hand down here does need lubing. You can actually see right the way through it there, so you can see the quartz underneath it. So that can be fixed at a later stage. So that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up, and please subscribe for more Trying to Fix videos. Take care. Bye now.